Am I the a-hole for helping out my disabled sister? I know, 99% of the people would say, of course not. Well, I guess my girlfriend's not one of those people. I'm 24 male and live with my disabled sister, Alina, and my girlfriend Mia. Alina was born blind, so every day I help her pick and dress her clothes. I don't feel troubled by it because I've been responsible for helping Alina since we were 12. By the way, our parents always worked full-time to put food on the table, and they also needed to take care of our younger siblings. I have a great relationship with Mia and love her very much. The only real fight we had up until today were caused by her jealousy towards Alina. Alina writes romantic stories. I don't have enough time to read her books, but I'm proud of her efforts and that she's earning some money with her stories. Before Alina started writing, she thought she would never be able to have a profession. Yesterday, Mia told me she was feeling jealous and asked me to start just to help Alina dress instead of me. I denied it because it would make Alina uncomfortable, and I questioned Mia why she started to feel this way now. She said to me that the last story Elena published contained a scene where the female lead, who is a blind girl, gets turned on by having her boyfriend help her dress, and after this they sleep together. Well, I think Mia is being unfair by indirectly accusing my sister of nurturing sexual fantasies about me. Besides, Alina's wearing underwear when I help her, and it doesn't take more than 10 minutes, so I don't think it's really a big deal. Alina has been consistent in her whole life about only feeling comfortable in being helped by me or our mother. Mia now says I'm emotionally cheating on her with my sister and that I should stop helping her to dress or send her to live back with my parents. I would never kick Alina out. Once again, I think Mia is being unreasonable. Just because I have a close relationship with my sister, it doesn't mean it's emotional cheating. We just talk about our days, hang out, watch movies together, etc. It's beyond me how Mia managed to convince two friends we have in common and my own father of her position. My mother sides with me and Alina. So here I am asking you, am I the a-hole? Alright, let's read a comment that got a lot of attention. Any girlfriend who's jealous of a relationship with a sibling needs a reality check and a relationship reevaluation. Emotionally cheating? With your sister? I'm sorry, but your girlfriend is a jealous idiot. Not the a-hole at all. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this, and let me just tell you, the next story we're going to cover is crazy. The title is, My Brother Kidnapped My Son, and I got him arrested. After my wife died right after Jaden's birth, male 5 years old, I'm 36 and was torn apart and did not know what to do. I wanted to give up on life. I just could not see myself moving on in life without her. But something, or rather someone, gave me a reason to pick myself up. Jaden. Jaden gave me that reason to go on in life. I love my son so much. Anything and everything I did was for him. The reason I woke up every morning and hustled was for him. I wanted to give him everything I never had in life and to protect him with my life at all cost. Apart from him, only his mother's memories and legacy were as important to me as his. Nevertheless, I had 5 siblings, 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and Vivian, 45 female, was the oldest of all of us, but honestly, I would say my siblings are the most literal, laziest people. They still waited for mother to fend for them, as old as they were, the same way she used to when we were younger. All my brothers did is get drunk and expect mom to prepare meals, and that brought conflict in the house among the family. Gratefully, none of them bothered to raise a hand against mom. Since I was the only one amongst us who worked hard and had a prosperous and successful business, my wife and I had to buy food in the house. After my wife died, I stopped buying food for my lazy siblings, and I never gave them money to give them for a reason for hustling. So I built a cottage house in the same yard right next to the family mansion. My siblings hated me for moving out of the big house and for the fact that I stopped buying food for them. All that mattered to me was my son and my peace. I could not stand the arguing and shouting in that house. I lived alone with Jaden in our cottage. I could finally spoil him properly without worrying about anyone messing up his head with toxic, nasty words and arguments. My siblings would call me arrogant and selfish, but I never really minded what they said, because I got where I was by hard work, determination, and focus. And I knew I genuinely deserved the car I drove, the house I built, and the money I had in my bank. No one could possibly gaslight me because the confidence I had in myself was massive. But little did I know that my brother Junior had something in store for me. He was at least not part of the drinking crew, but he was not any less lazy butt than any of the rest. He was kind of inconspicuous, so to say. Or maybe it's because he spent most of his time at his friend's place. But his eye was sharp and he was a smart person. Except he hassled the sleeping beast in me by messing with my son in the most nerve-wracking way possible. It was a beautiful morning when I woke up to get Jaden ready for school, as usual since I was a single father. I woke him up while he bathed. I was preparing his breakfast and lunch for school. After we finished in the house, we went to the car and drove off. I dropped him off at school and continued to my way to work. The day was so busy. We had so many clients, so I had to stay at work just a little longer than usual. I did not know who to contact to go pick up Jaden because I hardly have friends I could trust with my little boy. So he stayed at school 2 hours more whilst I was wrapping up things to go pick him up. After I was done, I told the secretary to lock up when she was done because I had to go pick up Jaden from school. When I reached Jaden's school, I was shocked to see that the gate was locked. That could mean that there was no one at the school premises. I lost it for a second, and then I called his class teacher to inquire if she perhaps took him home. Because, well, everyone was gone. She told me that she left earlier than most of the children, and she left Jaden playing with his best friend at the gate. I drove off to his friend's house to ask if maybe they've taken him along. I parked outside their house and hurriedly walked to their front porch and knocked. A woman answered the door, and I nervously asked her at the same time, hoping for the best of news. Unfortunately, they left Jaden at school. I started freaking out. Where could he possibly be? I thought maybe he was dropped off at home, so I went back to the car and drove straight home. When I reached home, I went straight to the cottage because Jaden had a spare key to the front door, but it was locked anyways. I unlocked it quickly and went around the house calling, but no answer. I ran outside and continued calling, but it was the same. There was no answer at all. I ran into the family house and asked my siblings if they perhaps seen my son. All they did was look at me and continued with their uncivilized and uninformative stories and laughed about it. I was so mad, I easily threw a temper tantrum. I destroyed everything in the living room to catch their attention and show them how meaningful it was for them to let me know if they've seen my little boy. They all stood there in terror, as they have never seen that side of me before, not even when my wife died. I asked them again in a low but vexed voice, and they all shook their heads like naughty but terrified children. If Jaden was not at any of the places I thought he would be, then where could he have gone to? I walked out of the house, leaving my siblings in fear and on their toes, ready to run in case I had gone savage. I went to the police station to file a missing persons report. The officer I found there was not as friendly as I expected. I felt oppressed. The fact that my son was nowhere to be found, and all he said to me was, "Oh, just wait for a while, you're overreacting for no reason. He's probably playing hide and seek with you, and here you are, wanting to turn the earth around to find him." Did he even have kids? Clearly, he did not understand the fear of a parent losing their child. The anxiety in me kept rising, and I was very much about to reach the breaking point. I threatened the officer that if he did not file a missing person report, I would plug out all his intestines and shove them down his throat. Well, The officer got so scared and immediately filed a report. Apart from filing a report, he reported me to his lieutenant. And sadly, I was locked up for assaulting a police officer. How could these people not understand what I was going through? My only reason to live had disappeared, and instead of people helping me, they were making things difficult to impossible to find my little Jaden. I had to stay in the cell for the whole night before they could let me out. After I was let out of the cell, I drove back home to freshen up and resume my search for my son. Whether the public helped me or not, it did not stop me to look for my little prince. I knew wherever he was terrified and waited for me to find him and bring him home. As I arrived home, I found my front door slightly open. At that moment, I thought maybe Jaden's come home. The relief that fell on me was gigantic before I was shattered and overwhelmed by sadness and anger. I found an envelope with my name on it, and the counter on the kitchen. It was a tape and a paper with coordinates, and below that was an amount written down, and something that looked like time. I just knew that my Jaden could not run off like an animal. On the tape was a video of a man in a Halloween skeleton mask and a complete black outfit. He said, "Hello, James. You've probably been sweating a river looking for your son. He's here, he's with me, and he's doing okay and's taken good care of. For now. So, let's play a little game. It's called Saving Your Son from Death. In that envelope, you'll find a piece of paper with coordinates. I want you to show up at that location with that amount of money noted below. Tomorrow, at the time written right under the amount. The rules are as followed. Failure to accomplish the task, you'll receive your son's arm in a box. So you have to be very fast and energetic. And lastly, if you involve the police, and I'm going to tell you one more time, if you involve the police, I will not think twice before blowing out your poor son's brains. And now that I don't joke around, so do the right thing and be fast. Godspeed." I was then convinced that my son had been kidnapped. The worst part is, I could not go back to the police with the evidence that my son was kidnapped, because I could lose him forever just like I lost his mother. I was losing my mind, and distress was eating me up quickly. One wrong move, and I could lose my reason for living. Is that what all the parents go through, or was I the chosen one? I was dolorous, and all I needed was to talk to someone, and just when I was about to give up, my sister came to my house and offered their heartfelt support. That's exactly what I needed. They offered me a shoulder to lean on, and they had no idea how grateful I was. While talking to them, I got so emotional and cried my tears out. I asked them why so many bad things were happening to me. My wife passed away right after the birth of our son, and then my son's kidnapped by some ruthless monster who took him God knows where. Things just did not want to go according to plan. I felt like I was being punished for something I did. Anyways, I was just appreciative of my sisters, because even though I've neglected them, they still came to me with help and offered their support. My sister watched the video as I went to the mansion to find a duffel bag for the money, because, well, I did not have that kind of large bag. I went through all my brother's rooms, and there was nothing except for Junior's room, which had something that shocked me. As I went through his closet, a black plastic bag that was tightly tied fell out, and I decided to take a peek. The same Halloween mask and the complete black outfit from the video was tightly tied into that plastic. How did the kidnapper's costume find its way in my brother's room? It could have a lot of explanations, but only one logical reason, and that was that Jaden was kidnapped by his very own uncle. Out of all the hustles out there, my brother decided to hustle in my lane. I know I was harsh with all of them when I stopped feeding them, but what he did was way over and beyond limits. I went out of his room and looked for him in the whole house, but he was nowhere to be found at the moment. I was ready to punch out his teeth and plug out his eyes to make sure I make him aware of the limits. Vivian came running, and she could not believe that Junior had kidnapped little Jaden, just to hurt me and get money from me as well. She came up with a plan to double-cross Junior and get Jaden back. We went back to the cottage to clearly draw out the plan and make sure that it was exactly careful. I called my secretary to print fake money for me. Junior would not see it coming at all. The next day, as I went to get the money for the exchange, Vivian went to the station to get backup because it was about to go down. And it was not going to end well knowing that my brother kidnapped my son. He'd given me a week of misery, a week of not seeing my child, a week of restlessness, and a week of up and downs. It was not easy for Vivian to get the cops on our side. After they heard that, we'd taken the law into our own hands. They felt intimidated, but I could not allow them to get my son back with a plan of their own, because they could lose a civilian's life with their plan. The plan we had was a genius plan, and it just needed to be executed well enough to get my son back and take Junior to jail for keeping a child hostage. I'd missed my son dearly, and all I wanted at that point was to see his tiny cute face smiling at me. I had been restless for some time, and I could almost say I started hallucinating, seeing my son on the passenger seat calling onto me for help. I tried by all means to keep myself together. I could almost say all my brothers were in this together because none of the other brothers were moved by Jaden's disappearance. And it hurt me so much how my wife took care of the whole house, and when she was gone, they did not even care about her son being lost. I went to the location my brother had given me the previous day. I went out of the car and walked a few steps away. I saw a van stop behind me in some bushes, and I immediately recognized it from somewhere. It was Junior's friend's van. That could only mean that Jaden was kept at his place as well. A man walked from behind a wall and walked towards me. He tried to avoid talking as much as he could because he felt I might just recognize his voice. I asked him where my son was, and he said, "Money first, boy second." I dropped the bag and kicked it into his direction, but slightly behind him to interrupt his sight towards me, to buy me time to knock him out. As he turned towards the bag, I hit him in the back with a cane. He fell to the ground, and I finally had the leverage to break all his bones while he was on the ground, trying to swallow the pain from the cane. I called his name as I sat on his chest and repeatedly punched his face to get rid of all my stress. As I hit him, I asked him about the whereabouts of my son. And then I heard Jaden's voice behind me. "Daddy! Daddy, stop!" My heart skipped a few beats and I turned my face, and I've never been happier to see him. The police took over from where I left off and they took my brother to prison. He was charged with kidnapping. We left with Vivian and went back home. I then decided to move out of the yard and just move as far away from the family because they were not happy with me and my son. I could not gamble with my son's life and happiness like it was poker. I was moved by my sister's help and support, so I decided to give her money as a thank you reward. She later also moved out of the house as she was then changing her life for the better. She realized that the bad influence of laziness came from the thought of living in a mansion. She started a small business, and I was so proud of how she transitioned from a lazy person to a businesswoman. Life has a way of teaching people reasons to live and transitioning us into better versions of ourselves. I don't know what I would have done if I had ended up losing my son. Well, it's safe to say this story was absolutely crazy. I hope OP's brother got everything he deserved. I'm hoping it was not a light sentence. The second an update's posted about this story, you guys will be the first to know, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's all the content today. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one.